Welcome to This Works Marketing, where 3 decades of proven experience has launched products, built brands, and generated profits. These are the stories behind the businesses that have been built. Okay, so I'm at this event for Brendon Burchard, and I run into Desiree Reid. And in this episode of This Works Marketing, we're going to talk about women of color, women of skin color.
Women with skin of color.
Women of skin of color.
Women with
skin of color.
Exactly.
So we're going to talk about that, and I wanted to interview Desiree because I think that she has a lot to say about the beauty business, and we're in a lot in the same backgrounds.
Space. Yeah,
backgrounds, and I think that you understanding a direct-to-consumer business would be really helpful for the people who watch. Okay, so Desiree, tell me a little bit about what's your background, what have you been doing for the last 24 years, and how did you get into the beauty business?
Well, for the last 24 years, up until June of this year, I was the general manager, executive vice president of brand development for Iman Cosmetics and Manuel Beauty. So that was my career for the last 24 years. I started with Iman back in 1994, actually, when she first launched the brand. So I've kind of been there as part of the growth, and very instrumental in the growth. So I launched the brand in Europe, in Africa, and throughout the world. Prior to that, I actually started my career at Revlon.
Okay.
So I started my career at Revlon in product development, which back then, product development was like ideal because you had to work with every single department because we conceptualized products, then we had to present the products for, marketing and sales to everybody for them to say, yeah, and then we had to work with everybody, the packaging, the marketing, the sales, to get it to market.
Right.
So I started my career there. I went into fragrance development, so I did a lot of fragrance. I had a brief stint at Estee Lauder, and I was a general manager for Sean Puffy Combs' first fragrance, Unforgivable. So I've been in the business for a long time.
So why beauty? What's your passion for getting into that business?
First thing, my mother was a beautician. Okay, so I grew up in the 60s in London. So my mother was like my mother, my aunts, they never went out without their lipsticks.
Right.
They never went out without the false eyelashes, the wigs, everything, always. But I never really had what I would say a passion for beauty. I didn't have a passion for beauty because I worked in my mother's business. I was like, no way, okay? I did it one summer, and next year I went to a youth council and got a job. And I was like, she didn't want to pay me, doing hair and all of that stuff. Fast forward, I go to college, right? And as I told you, I am older than I look. So in those days, when you went to college, you had to take a salesmanship course. You had to take a salesmanship course. I mean, you had a class that told you how to be a salesman, what you had to do, how to make the sale. And part of that was you had to interview a salesman from a major company about salesmanship and what that meant back in the day.
Right.
So I had done an internship. I've always worked. I had done an internship at General Motors, the General Motors themselves in the GM building in New York, where Revlon was. All the beauty brands were like in that little area. Estee Lauder was on some of the floors, Revlon was on some of the floors, and all of the beauty companies was like uptown, 59th Street. So I decided I was going to interview somebody at Revlon. Can't remember his name, but we had a great, I interviewed him, asked him these questions, and he was so pumped that I left there. I was like, I'm going to work here. Like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to work in beauty, and I'm going to work from Revlon. So I finished college, had somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody who got me into Revlon. But I worked in the human resources department.
Not quite the beauty business.
Not quite the beauty business. And it was a really great job. It was really good.
But you were in.
I was in, and I did a good job. They asked me if I wanted a position there. And it was the first time I said no, because it wasn't what I wanted, But I got to see all the jobs that came in
Yeah.
because they came through human resources. So a job came up in the product development area.
Right.
And my supervisor was really nice. I said, I'd be interested in like maybe this job. So she recommended me, blah, blah, blah. And I went up and I talked, product development and everybody's pretty. And but it was for a secretarial position.
Uh-huh.
And I had a college degree, but that's how you learned.
Right.
There wasn't any internships. There weren't any mentors. You came in as a secretary or something like that, but it wasn't a secretarial job. You worked. You got assignments. You worked with the team. We worked
Right.
with the director. So I did the interview and I got the job, But here's why I got the job. They said, she walks fast enough and she looks the part. Everything else we can train her on. That may sound superficial, but it was beauty, So, but you had to walk fast enough and you had to look the part at least. And you were trainable because I was there, so I was obviously trainable. So that's how I got into beauty.
And then you've gone from brands into, but from kind of the ground floor, and then got into marketing, and then running businesses and launching globally. I mean, it's a big.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, now that you put
it that way.
Thinking about it.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I was at Revlon for almost 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked on skincare product development. I worked on color product development, and my last stint was actually in fragrance. So I did fragrance development.
Mm-hmm.
I worked on the Charlie brand and Scoundrel, things that people like. I'm really dating myself. But I worked on fragrance, and fragrance was completely different because you had to have smell and products. So I went to a school where they taught you different notes. I worked with fragrance houses. I worked with some of the best perfumers in the world at the time. It was great. So I spent a lot of my career in fragrance, and people don't know that fragrance is in every single thing. Even in food, there's some type of fragrance. So I was with Perfumers Workshop, which did the tea rose fragrance, and they still do actually. When I got a call from somebody who I'd worked with at Revlon saying they're looking for somebody to work on Iman Cosmetics from a product development side. So I went in and I met with Iman, and she had just gotten married to David at the time, and they were just, settling. So we got along, and so I went in as a consultant, really, with Sue Raffi, God bless her soul. She was a big supporter of mine. And we started, I'd come out of process and systems. So when people, when they talk about having processes and systems, that's what I learned at Revlon. The importance of having process and systems. So, setting up things like standards for your production, from your lab to your production batch, to all of these different times. Those are the kinds of things that I understood. So those are the kinds of things I brought to the table. Getting some certain process and procedures set up so every product, every batch and every product looked the same. There was lots of variations and things like that. So that, and then product ideas, and new product development, and it just became a thing. I just, you do more, with not really intentionally thinking about the next thing, but thinking about what had to get done there. So we launched so everybody's now talking about highlighters and things like that, but I think it was back in 1996 or 97, we launched bronzers, which was highly pearlized product back in the days, and everybody was like, why? Women with skin of color, they already have a glow, but it's a different glow.
Yeah.
Fast forward, and highlighters and bronzers are the biggest sellers, We had different shades of lipsticks that went from light to dark. Everybody was just selling dark lipsticks to this consumer.
Right.
We had a variety. So there was that knowledge that I had, which came out of my marketing experience with Revlon and my personal experience, because I'm a woman with skin of color. I understood that a lot of those things that people said about what we wore, what we didn't wear, were not true. We wore dark lipstick, we wore light lipstick, we wore bright lipstick, we liked highlighters, we liked our skin to glow, we liked eyeshadow, it was like mascaras. it wasn't always just about our hair, you know. It went beyond.
It went beyond that.
It went beyond our hair. So it just kind of evolved, and so 24 years later, you know, I'm like, okay, when did I get here?
I get it.
You know how that goes.
So tell me a little bit about one of the things that we were talking about just kind of off camera, and I said, you know, the future is really building a direct-to-consumer business. And you said something very interesting to me, because we deal with a lot of brands that are doing equity or that are at retail, and they haven't built a direct-to-consumer business. And you said something very interesting to me, and I said about what did you tell me what you said about direct-to-consumer business when I asked you that question?
Like it's already here.
Yeah.
It's already been here. Yeah, it's been here.
So what exactly does that mean to you, and why is that, as an operator, why is that so important to longevity, profitability, to companies?
Listen, everybody has a voice now. So when social media came, you became a direct-to-customer business. From the moment that door opened where they could talk back to you, you became a direct consumer business. Even if you sold in retail or you sold online, you were a direct-to-customer business, because now I had the opportunity to tell you exactly what I thought about your products, what I expected from you, how I expect you to act as a brand, and how I expect you to portray me as a customer. So you have a direct conversation with the customer.
Right.
Those other things are just where you sell those things that they want, you know. So from the moment I think social media happened, you had to switch your mindset and realize that you're a direct-to-customer business. They only buy after they've spoken to you as a brand, after they've gone and looked about what your company's about, what you stand for. They like your product, but they have to kind of like you first now. And then they can like your product. Because they can easily, if they don't like you, somehow your product doesn't seem that pretty anymore. You know? So I think social media and that whole digital stuff has just made it a direct-to-customer business. She does not have to go to the store to know anything about your business. She knows all about your business before she goes to the store.
What about when it comes to commerce? What about when it comes to selling? If I'm going to go direct to consumer to you, I can potentially cut out the middleman. How do you see that? Do you see that in your line of business today, or do you see that as the future? Because I gave you a couple of examples of companies that they were selling retail, but they went direct to consumer and really exploded their business, because now I have that relationship with you that I can buy. You can buy directly from me, and you're not going to Amazon. You're not going to Target or Macy's or whatever.
I think it's choice, really.
Okay.
I don't think that people don't want to go to retail. People want a different experience in retail. You know, if you go down, if I go to Macy's and I go to this one, you're all selling the same things. So why do I have to go to all of you? You know, there was a time when there was an exclusivity, you know, so London, right? Perfect example. You walk down Oxford Street, Debenhams, they're all selling the same things. So why do I need to go to all of you? You know, there was a time when you could go and there was unique things that were unique to that particular retailer or a unique experience, and I went there for that, and I bought product. Now I think people
it's
like
more commoditized, right?
Yeah, if there's not something interesting to go there and I can just get it online, then I'll just get it online, you know? So I don't think so much it's that retail's going to end, e-commerce is going to take over. I think we'll do all of it.
Yeah.
Depending on where we are in our lives, how much time we have, how much we want to spend. It's just going to be about choice. You know, I may choose to go to the retailer because I like that store. I like the people in there, you know, the customer service that I get. I can't get that kind of customer service online. So I'll go maybe for that or for something different. Or it may just be, I want an experience. You know, I want to feel like when I walk into a store, I'm going to get, like I went to Bulgari, okay? They sell online. But hell no, I'm going to Bulgari, okay?
I'm going direct to
I'm
that.
going to Del Bulgari on Fifth Avenue, because you know why? You sit down, they give you a cup of tea, they seat you in this nice spot.
Yeah.
I went in there, decided I was going to buy myself a piece of jewelry for my birthday, and I walk in and I'm thinking, I'm just going to buy it. No, they sat me down. My friends were with me. They were like, oh my God, we're in Bulgaria. They're seating us, taking pictures, posting it. We're in Bulgaria, we're having tea, and we're having this. She did my rings, they took out the ring, they cleaned it like 20 times. They wrapped it in 4 boxes. I went home and I put it there and I was like, I'm not opening that until it's my birthday, because that's my birthday present. And it sat there until it was my birthday.
Because of the whole experience.
Because the whole experience.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm not buying Bulgari online. I'm going to Bulgari.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about direct to consumer in terms of, you have to educate someone about a product, right? Yeah. Don't you think that's an opportunity to educate somebody about a product where, if you're talking, let's just take mineral makeup, for example. Everybody's got mineral makeup, but what makes you different? There's that opportunity to educate that person, deal with their pain points, solve them with your unique formulation or whatever, and then create a very specific offer for that person. Do you see that as a channel in direct to consumer that is not an option anywhere else?
What I see, and I'm really going to say what I see when it comes to women with skin of color, particularly, I don't see empathy with the customer. I don't see an understanding of what my needs are displayed in how you display your product,
right,
or how you present your product.
Right.
We spent a lot of time searching different ingredients. We've done a lot of work for ourselves on products. What's good, what's not good, what we grew up with, and what we products that we use. So we have a lot of information ourselves. We can tell you a few things that about your product that has an effect on my skin that you don't know, right? So I think, yes, you can educate them, but don't assume that they don't know a lot before you. So that education needs to be authentic.
Yes.
Okay? It needs to speak to my needs, my problem, my solution. Even if you are speaking to 20 other women, we probably do have the same, because across the board we have lots of the same issues when it comes to our skin, because at the end of the day, my skin may have a different tone.
But it's skin.
But when you break it down,
it's
right,
got pores.
It's got all of those things.
Right.
But I say all skin is created equal, but it looks and acts differently, right? So you've got to treat that my skin may not look like it's skin. It doesn't look it. So it acts and it needs to be treated differently.
Yeah.
And I find that that's not what is taken into consideration. That whole idea of, is that cream going to make my skin look shiny? Is it going to clog my pores?
So don't you think that's an opportunity for the education process with the
if it's authentic?
Okay. Take for granted that it is authentic, but do you feel that that's an opportunity to educate the consumer with her very specific needs that you just can't? It's hard to do that in other places, isn't it?
It is hard to do that. It is hard to do that, and that education that you give doesn't necessarily mean she's going to buy your product from you.
Right.
But she remembers that you gave her that information when that product comes, when there comes a time for that need.
Right.
And sometimes you then go looking for those things in those other products. You start to compare. And that's what that kind of information allows the customer to do. So you're telling me this, and I'm using this, and this one's saying this. So let me compare. What I've been using this, and it's been working okay, and this one is saying this. So let me compare to see really who's telling me, not necessarily the truth, but who's satisfying my needs. Because at the end of the day, what I want you to do is satisfy my beauty needs. Yeah. I have a beauty need. This is it. I need you to satisfy it, right?
So where do you feel that you said authentically a couple of times, and I'm totally on board with you. Give me your example of authenticity, And why is that so important today with today's consumer? I think it's always been important, but it is your butt's exposed a little bit more today, right? The internet is the middleman, is kind of eliminated, it's created a whole different.
Why is it important?
Yeah. And what does it mean? I know, tell me why and explain to me what it means to be authentic in your mind.
It means trust. It means trust. It means that understanding, to me, being authentic means that I trust. You understand. I feel that you understand what my needs are. I feel that there's empathy.
Yeah.
I keep coming back to that
Sure.
because I think that's important. You empathize with my issue. It's like Dean said, I want to feel like you understand me, not
Right.
like I need to understand you, right? So being authentic it's important the biggest thing is trust.
Yeah.
Because everybody's money is hard earned.
Yeah.
And so when I give you that money, I'm trusting that what you've just told me is authentic and trustworthy. Right. And you've done some of your homework. Right? So there's personal input in there, personal insights. There's some research into, what the needs are for this particular customer who would use these products. And at the end of the day, you're not guaranteeing what you're saying, all of this stuff. It's a pretty good chance that my products will work for you.
So how does that look when you say trust? What does that look like? Does that come from somebody who is experienced it? Is it coming from the formulator? How is that communication happening?
Transparency. All the way
like
through.
How? Give me an
Transparency.
example.
Where do your ingredients come from?
Okay.
Things like that. Who's working on this? And I think for me, when you're selling me a product, to me as a woman with skin of color and just this whole idea of diversity, who's in your house who has a sense of diversity, who has a voice for me, who would say, I don't really think that kind of really works for this customer. And that's not always an agency. I think you kind of have to have that inside the company before you can have somebody else kind of give you that. So transparency, because you don't have to sell me if I can see all the steps and make the decision myself.
Right. You have to sell me if you're solving my problems and you're authentic and there's transparency and there's real stuff to what you're saying. I don't need to be sold. I just need to understand.
It's like Cy Sims used to say, an educated customer is my best customer.
Yeah.
I think that is really what it comes down to, and being responsive. I bought your product and especially online in direct consumer. So now you talk to me directly and you reached out to me and you were like, hey, this is really good. And I come in. Never hear from you again. Yeah. I never hear even if I don't want to answer, even if I don't respond to your email, it's just kind of like, got your stuff? Yeah. How are you liking it? And it's my choice whether or not I want to give you that feedback.
And if you don't get if the company doesn't give feedback, therefore it potentially erodes trust.
Yeah. Yeah, because I just feel like you just sold me.
Exactly.
Right? It's
Tell me about the importance of, I'm going to ask you a couple other questions, but I'm going to talk about storytelling. You talked about storytelling. Tell me about the importance of storytelling when it comes to selling. Because I say the right storytelling is selling. Right. If you do it right. Tell me the importance of that, especially in your experience.
I think I agree with you. There's no selling when there's a story. You're not selling. I think that's when you get the opportunity to empathize, have transparency, have authenticity, and there's no selling in that. There's more of a connection.
Yeah.
Do I connect with you? Do I believe you? Right. Do I trust you? I was just talking to a woman and she said, well, how do I tell my story? Where do I start? And I said, you start from here. You start from exactly where you are, how you got there. And you'll have to go back, but that's just a natural progression in telling the story. But once you've told the story, I just have to make the decision whether that story resonates with me.
Right.
And have you developed a product that then resonates with me? Because I may love your story, but I still may not like your product.
How about the importance of the story of why that ingredient and where that comes from? So talk about that. So about the
Really important.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about
really
that.
important. I mean, I think when you look at companies who are really connecting with their customers, it's for instance, people are getting their products from local farmers, people who I know that if I spend my money on this product, it serves somebody else. It's contributing to somebody else's lifestyle that's making their lifestyle better. I'm not just giving my money to a corporation that's dishing it out to their shareholders, right? So these smaller brands who formed relationship with communities who can improve the lives. People, you can't always give money to charity, but if in doing something or buying a product, you realize that some of that is going to help somebody else, there's more likely of a chance that I would buy that product if I know that's a woman, especially women, because I mean, it's usually those are the women who are really working, not the mental work, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it is important that you have some kind of give back, or you're working with smaller communities, because what I call it tribalism. You've got a little tribe, right? And that tribe wants to make sure that the rest of the tribe succeeds, right? Because if this woman here succeeds, that means I'm going to get more products.
Right.
I'm going to, and she's going to survive. And it's like bartering.
Sure.
Doing that kind of stuff is really like a bartering process. I'll buy your stuff if your stuff is going to be helping somebody else as well. People feel connected to those things.
So it's interesting you talked about that when I asked you about storytelling. So let's talk a little bit about the importance of selling a product, and you've done a lot of product selling, the importance of telling a story to sell a product.
Very. I mean, we survived at Iman Cosmetics for 20-something years and plus, when a lot of brands and products in that space did not. Because she had a story, a real story, right? She came to the stage, she came as a model, and no makeup artist had a foundation that matched her skin tone. And she had to mix. She genuinely had to figure out how she mixed it, because she realized that her image was her asset, was her currency, right? And if that asset didn't look good, there was no currency to be made. So it's an authentic story, and out of that, she could then empathize,
right?
Because she could buy any makeup that she wanted. She could afford it, but it wasn't there. So you can't buy what's not there.
But that story
resonated,
built a brand, right?
Built products, and kept building products that wasn't about what people thought that this customer wanted, but was about what the customer wanted, because the customers told us what they wanted. If we put something out and it needed changing or something, they would come back and say the same thing like I was telling you with the BB cream. They told us, well, we don't have this, this shit doesn't have this, why can't I find that? Why doesn't it do this? Why doesn't it have it doesn't work for me. So we took all of that information, developed a product, and just turned around and said,
here you go.
Here you go. All the things that you said that you couldn't find, you can find it here. And they bought it. I didn't make up a story.
Right.
They told me the story, and we went back and said, okay, well, let's make a product that satisfies that story.
Right.
So the story is now different. 5 shades of BB cream with SPF, Nobody was missing, and so it's the storytelling is important, but the listening is important.
Talk to me a little bit about the difference between, from your perspective, because you've done both, the difference between marketing and selling.
Now they're becoming almost one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because a salesperson has to understand marketing. and the marketing person has to understand sales. So for me, those two are like this now, right? If you're a marketer, you should be able to sell. And if you're sales, you should know some marketing. You just can't, it's not down the line anymore.
Right.
You're first of all, it's difficult to have one person marketing and one person selling it,
Yeah.
Who's telling the story, right? Because the salesperson have a version of the story.
Their story, this person
Yeah,
has a version
right?
of
The
the story.
salesperson's stories are all about selling, 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 and the marketing person's all about marketing, marketing, marketing.
Right.
But the two of them have to be on the same page,
Right.
so the salesperson can get what they want and marketing can show their returns
Right.
on all that marketing dollars that
Yeah.
people say you're spending on. So I don't think that one's more important. I remember when I met the salesman at Revlon, it was, you walked in and it was hard selling, you had to sell the buyer. But the difference is you're not selling the buyer anymore, right?
You're selling the end user?
You're selling the end user. So the sales is a different sales because, you can go into to the buyer and you can charm the buyer and you can tell the buyer why your product and how much money you're going to spend in advertising and how much co-op dollars you're going to give them and how many times you're going to put their logo on your advertising.
Yeah.
Now it's not like that, right? It's that end customer that you're talking to.
Yeah.
So your sales pitch as a salesperson has to be different.
Yeah.
And your marketing pitch is different because you're no longer selling to the buyer because the buyer's not buying from you. She's buying from your customer.
Right.
If you're going in to sell them, they're going to look at all of your stats, Google, you name it, they can find it, just like we can. And they're going to be buying your customer, like you said with it, right? They bought their customer.
Yeah.
So it didn't sell to L'Oreal, right? Their customer sold it to L'Oreal. The same thing with Carol's daughter.
Yeah.
Carol's daughter didn't sell to L'Oreal. They didn't probably go in and say, I want you to buy my brand. They sat there and did what they had to do and built that base. And L'Oreal,
Said,
because the customer said, I want this.
Yeah.
And if you want me, you get me if you get this.
Right.
So it's a different sell
Yeah.
altogether,
Yeah.
who you're selling to.
So where do you see the future of kind of direct sales when it comes to, it's just about cosmetics, but that just happens to be where your expertise is. But your expertise as an operator is in all kind of direct to consumer. Where do you see the future of that?
It's just going to get bigger, and right now it may be infomercials and online, but I think direct selling has to be in retail as well. It has to be everywhere. That the whole concept that you have a different direct selling for when you're in store versus when you're on air, or versus when you're online, somehow has to marry, right? Because I have to have that same kind of connection to you anywhere I see you.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. The experience has to be the same.
I have to. If I see you in retail and you don't look as good as you do online or through direct
TV.
sale, do I have a different impression of you? So I think they call it customer eccentric, being customer centric, but not across one platform or one place. It has to be everywhere.
Yeah.
You can't have it online, and it's difficult when you don't have your own retail space, and I think that's a big thing.
Yeah.
I think more and more brands will have their own space.
Inside the retail.
Inside the
Their
retail.
little boutique, if you will.
Inside the retail.
With somebody who's educated about the product.
Is somebody who's educated and who can give the experience, and they'll have it maybe inside retail, outside retail, but it won't matter because everywhere I go, my interaction with them will feel like they've taken me all across.
Seamless.
Yeah, I'll buy something online and I'll walk in store and they'll know what I bought online. They'll know my skin type. They'll know all that stuff about me. I'll see them in another country and they'll have that information on me. And I'll say, oh my God, I forgot such and such. Don't worry, Desiree, I got you. Here's what you usually do. And by the way, you want to try something else while you're here because this may be something that only we have here. So I think it's you've got to have that mentality of direct sales. That's all you're doing. You're not selling in retail, you're not selling online, you're not selling here, you're selling always directly to the customer everywhere. And everywhere you go, I'm always asking for people coming with technology. Oh, can you do this? Can you do this? And my biggest thing is years ago, I used to say, oh God, I wish there was something that, when you put on something, it would go, oh God, please don't wear that. Don't put that on. That really is not working for you. Fast forward, and here's Alexa. And you can put on something and it will say, well, no, that doesn't really match,
Yeah.
So it's all of these things that we're talking about are not things that can't happen. It just takes somebody to say, I'm going to invest, because it is a big investment.
Right.
Retailers have to have a completely different mindset about what they put in their store, how they put things in their store. And it can't just be about their store. It has to be about your store, my brand, my image, your brand and my image, marrying together so that our customer, because then it becomes our customer, has an experience with my brand in your space, with your experience and my experience, giving them a great experience.
Yeah.
It can't be a retailer's experience, a brand experience, and another experience online.
We have found that through direct response that we do is that we can tell the story, right? And we can answer your pain points. We can validate with experts. We can give testimonials to validate what you're saying. We can give you a unique offer that you can't get anywhere else. And so we've tried to deal with all those points, but then the halo effect, when someone goes to retail or they go online, they know all about that product. And it's not a compare anymore. It's like, oh, I want the one with this because I was told that story. Do you see that continuing?
Yeah, because it's education, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we say stories, but part of the story is that you're educating.
Yes.
So once you have a little bit of knowledge about something, you view things differently. I knew things about social media and the different platforms. I viewed each of these things differently and what they meant and how they worked and why I needed it and how it should connect to that. I think it's the same thing. Once you get that information, your customer gets that information, they start to view everything differently.
Yeah.
So it's storytelling while educating.
Yeah.
Right? So
Perfectly
it's not just storytelling.
Right.
It's storytelling and education. And let's face it, they can Google everything you said and check it. If you say this ingredients, they'll go and Google it and say, oh, then maybe that's not exactly.
And I think it's storytelling while educating that wants to create an event, which is selling, right?
Yeah.
Last question I have is that the customer journey. So think about how you live your life. You see something on TV, maybe you watch a couple hours or maybe not during the week, and then you're on social media during the day, and then you may be served up a digital ad. So you have to be everywhere, right? You have to be everywhere with the same message. It's not just at retail and online. It's like where your attention is throughout the day. Your attention is different in different places.
Oh, absolutely.
Talk about the importance of being in the right, having the right message wherever the customer's attention is at that time in her day or his day throughout their 24 hours, 365.
I think that's, I've been reading a lot about onboarding.
Yep.
And I did a whole webinar on onboarding, and I think every big company should be doing onboarding in that way of understanding that. Because, so I bought something on a website. I won't say which one, but I bought it already. I don't need you to serve me up 10 other, follow me, but you're serving me the same things. I just bought that. It's annoying. It's annoying. I'm done with that, right? But you probably know that I looked at a few other things and, and you've got all enough information that you could probably serve me up things that, based on what I have done, because we know it can happen,
and your behavior,
that's complementary to what I've done. But I find that I bought a sweater and you're still serving me up sweaters,
Right.
or something like that.
like get original, right?
Yeah. Like, I told you that. Tell me something good.
So specifically about the importance of selling a product today, about, if you believe this, selling a product today that you have to be serving up the same message no matter where their attention is during the day in that journey, because your attention may be a little bit on TV in the morning, maybe during social media during the day, certain hours of the day. In the evening, you may be doing some work and you'll be on digital and it'll be retargeted, but you have to have that 360 touch point.
I think you have to have the 360 touch point. I think you have to have a variation of the message depending on where I'm looking at it.
Correct.
Yeah, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what time of the day it is, maybe. You know, I can't read my Facebook feed during the middle of the day because I'm probably working or
Right. So
involved
make it
in
shorter.
something. So make it shorter. You know what I'm saying? If I see the same message over and over again, it gets boring. You told me that there. Now give me some more. I know that already.
Uh-huh.
So if you're going to serve me up different places, it's like discovery. I look at it. I find search is
Yeah.
like discovery,
Yeah.
right? And if I've gone to a product and maybe I didn't buy it, so let me discover more things. If I see the same message at the same time, I'm not learning
Right.
anything else. So,
Very interesting.
so-
That's a very interesting point.
so okay, I looked at that cup. Yeah, I like the cup, but I didn't buy the cup. So
Right.
you're going to show me the cup 20 times? I looked at the cup already.
Right.
Right?
Show me
So
something I don't know. or
Tell me
new.
something about the cup I don't know on the next time you serve me something. And then somewhere else show me, and I'm discovering, oh, this cup is more than there's a cup, right? It was made in this place. It was done this. It comes in this other colors. It's just, don't keep reminding me you left this, go. I know I left it.
That's fascinating. That's really, really interesting.
I know I left it. Okay,
Yeah.
you're supposed to be smarter than me, but you're like.
So
showing me the same thing.
that's really an opportunity for
Yes,
businesses.
Absolutely. Discovery. I think, why people like search, right?
Yeah.
I discover, like, I went to Amazon looking for a bag. I needed it to be this type of bag in this color, blah, 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 blah. And I had something in mind, but that's not what I bought. Because I discovered brands that I never heard of at a price that I didn't know about.
Right.
Right? And I was like,
With
oh my God.
with features that I didn't
Exactly
know I
what to
wanted.
think about, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's what's missing a lot of time is this whole idea. So I bought that bag, right? I don't need you to send me, that thing 20 times.
Right.
But I'm in this business. I know what data you have, but I think what's happened is we're over.
I call it dataria.
Yeah, exactly.
Dataria.
I love it. Because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Just simple. Get
Yeah.
it down to the basics, I read somewhere where I think it was Makeup Forever, right? Looked at their search engine and realized how women of color were searching their products and changed their whole tactic to get to that customer. Because you can tell so much about what I search for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think people, I see that all the time. I see the message here and the main message and the main message and the same message. And I'm like, I know that.
Got it. So discovery of create different feature benefit messages in different platforms.
Now you're going to use that. Now that's going to become
use
your
that.
thing.
I am going to use that.
Okay, I need credit, okay?
You will get credit.
I need credit for that.
I
Because if you think about it, right? Think about social media and like Instagram. What are we doing?
discovering, snooping,
Discovering,
something.
something about this and something about that one and learning something about this. That's what we're interested
Right.
in the discovery of the finding out about things. Because we're still humans, we're not machines, so we still have a level of curiosity,
Yeah.
right, about something. So That's what in my opinion. I mean, I think some people might disagree, but I think social media and a big part of social media is discovery.
Absolutely.
Discovering places that I didn't know about, people that I didn't know about, things that I didn't know about, how things happen, how things are made. That's, for me, the fascination with those things. And I think, people follow people and stuff, but they're not necessarily always following them, but trying to discover things that they may in turn be able to use or inspire them if it's done in the right way.
It just happened to come from that person.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
I don't know how this happened.
It was such a pleasure. This is great. This is great. I learned a lot today. And
Really?
I did. And
Well, I have to say that I'm quite happy to hear somebody like you say that.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure meeting you. And I'm sure everybody who's watching this will get a lot out of it too. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.